Streaming is on.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your round.
Hi, Sue. I'm Joan Andrews.
Hi, I had to unmute there.
Yes. And I have that you're the chair of the round.
Yes.
Good.
So I guess I'll introduce, and if anybody needs to change order or anything, I'll let you all know.
Just the new people know we are live streaming. So yeah, don't do anything too crazy.
Is on.
I will be right back. I'm just going to go close the door to this room so nobody comes in, my daughter or the dogs.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. I'm Joan Andrews.
Hi, nice to meet
fellow
you.
judges.
Yes. Let's turn that off.
I'm ready whenever the fellow judges are ready.
Okay, we're waiting on 2 more competitors who haven't checked in on the chat yet. I'm not sure how long. Does anybody have any? I know that there's IPDA and NPDA going on in between, so I don't know how long we should give them.
I figure they'll eventually turn up.
Okay, all right. So Casey will go first. So first of all, congratulations to all of you who are in the room for making the final round of informative speaking. Very good. Congratulations. And we'll go ahead and go through the list. There's a couple of double entries. So Casey's scheduled to be first, but she'll be exiting because she's double entered. And then Brennan, who's coming up later, is double entered. So we may have to move some people up in the order just to let you know. All right. So our first speaker will be Casey Hamilton.
Mitsutake Yukoshi left a barbecue on Mount Roko in western Japan, decided to walk down the mountain rather than taking the cable car with his friends. Somehow he lost his way, slipped, fell, broke his pelvis, and with nobody around to help, lost consciousness. 24 days later, a passing climber found his body. His body temperature had fallen to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. His pulse was barely discernible, and his metabolism was almost at a standstill. However, he somehow survived and fully recovered, not just by a miracle, but through human hibernation. More than just a sci-fi fantasy, it turns out the human body possesses all the tools required to induce and mimic hibernation of animals. Despite the animal's body slowing down for its deep hibernation, PBS on December 6, 2010 states that the levels of sugar and fat in their blood are similar to those in humans with diabetes. Yet they don't suffer from the same condition, giving us a potential insight on how to combat the disease. From interesting facts like these and new technology advancements, researchers are slowly figuring out that hibernation is more than just a sci-fi dream for space travel. It's saving lives, and it's at the center of developing future therapies. So today, we're going to dig through our initial steps through human hibernation. We'll then awaken ourselves to today's breakthroughs before finally dreaming over some implications, because a path to better human health can start with a sleeping animal. First, let's go into what we know and the past attempts. Simply put, hibernation is when an animal goes into a state of extended inactivity. The animal's metabolism will slow down to less than a quarter of its normal rate. This cools the creature's body and slows down its heart rate to just a few times per minute for up to months at a time. Scientists are especially interested in the mechanism that allows hibernating animals to return to full activity after waking and avoiding the traumatic health problems. In Jeremy Sue's October 21st, 2018 article published from NBC News. Since 2002, emergency room doctors have been tapping into the power of hibernation through a technique called therapeutic hypothermia, which involves cooling blankets and ice packs to lower the body temperature in patients who are critically ill to the near freezing point of water. This protects the brain by slowing down metabolism, reducing swelling, and delaying our brain cells from dying. Taking it one step further, in American Nurses Association article on July 11, 2011, doctors have learned to insert an intravascular tube with cold fluid within a large vein to keep the body temperature in patients that near point of freezing. A neuromuscular blocking drug helps keep the muscles from shivering, and a patient stays in stasis for 2 to 4 days. However, there have been instances where doctors have chosen to keep their patients in this state for as long as 2 weeks with no complications. Among those that were interested was John Bradford, president of SpaceWorks, a United States company developing technologies for space exploration based in Atlanta, Georgia. As we look into Ben Panko's January 8, 2017 article published in the Smithsonian, he notes that a woman in China was kept chilled for 2 weeks to allow her brain to heal from a traumatic injury, and she was able to fully recover and return to her daily life. And for our unfortunate hiker Yukoshi, his case showed that it's possible to survive an even longer cooling procedure. Having taken a quick peek of human hibernation application, it's time to wake up for today's latest breakthroughs. While we understand how hibernating animals remain healthy, The question still lies on how to artificially induce inactivity in humans. The answer may lie in a small group of neurons in the brain region called raphe pallidus, involved in regulating body temperature. Dr. Matteo Cherry and his team from the University of Bologna in Italy in 2013 were the first to induce a hibernation-like state on rats that normally don't hibernate. They injected a chemical into the brain region, inhibiting neuronal activity, and placed the rats in a dark, chilly room to lower their metabolic rate. The results revealed that there was a drastic drop in temperature in their brains, resembling brain patterns in animals during natural hibernation. The study showed that inhibiting specific brain neurons is essential to inducing a hibernation-like state. There's been a question about the organ donor shortage in the United States. It's not that there just aren't enough donors to go around. Under the best circumstances, when a heart, liver, or lung can't be retrieved from a cadaver, it is only viable for transplant for 24 to 36 hours. Neurophysiologist Wee Lee conducted a study at the National Eye Institute on May 4, 2018, that compared stem cell-derived neurons in human and ground squirrel cells in responses to the cold. The results revealed when human cells got cold, they produce a high amount of reactive oxygen compounds that causes damage to DNA, RNA, and proteins, leading to the destruction of the structure of the cell, leading on to cell death. However, in ground squirrels, those reactive oxygen compounds were significantly lower, and the structure of the cell was still left intact. Using the drug BAM15 on human stem cells, they found that they were able to reduce the amount of compounds produced and preserve the cell structure. Drugs like BAM15 can be used to preserve and extend shelf life of donated organs up to 5 days, solving the organ transplant epidemic. Now that we've awoken ourselves to today's breakthroughs, finally, it's time to dream over some implications. From a horrific case of a traumatic injury, saving the life of a person of excessive bleeding becomes the race against time when the body begins to shut down. Catherine Gammon's October 11, 2018 article explains that striped gophers produce a high amount of a natural compound called D-beta hydroxybutyrate during hibernation, as well as increased levels of melatonin. From past trials, it was discovered that its injection can supply the brain with energy when blood sugar levels are low, thereby benefiting those suffering from traumatic injuries, ranging from anything to car crashes to mass shooting victims. Researchers have also found a coping mechanism in hibernating bears that could lead to a cure for bone loss and kidney failure in humans. 5 months of inactivity in humans would lead to disastrous bone thinning. However, it leaves bare bones unharmed. In 2009, Dr. Ralph Nelson and his team from the University of Illinois took the challenge to better understand the hibernating bears. Hibernating bears are able to break down bone loss products and urea waste in order to build new bone and make new proteins. The researchers think that they might be able to use this process for those suffering from osteoporosis and kidney failure. Additionally, Prashant Venkatesh's January 14, 2019 article discusses that bears are able to break down accumulation of fat during hibernation despite a drastic drop in insulin. That same combination in humans would normally result in type 2 diabetes. Hoping that if bears can do it, we can do it. Researchers are studying hibernating bears to develop a treatment for type 2 diabetes. One of the most hopeful areas of hibernation is its potential treatment in neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's, in which synapses or connections between nerve cells deteriorate. Research by scientists at the Medical Research Toxicology Unit, based at the University of Lancaster, found that cooling and hibernation in mice led to production of a protein called RBM3 that prevents synapse loss and cell death. This revealed a possible new drug that could protect against neurodegeneration in humans as well. And of course, no hibernation discussion is complete without the mention of space travel. From Interstellar to Avatar, we've watched protagonists in the movies awaken from these hibernation pods after their year-long journey. SpaceWorks is working on a more realistic open chamber that will allow the crew to semi-hibernate its ships, lower their body temperature to the point of mild hypothermia, allowing astronauts to snooze for 2 weeks on end during longer missions. Pretty cool, right? We deciphered through the past attempts, awoken ourselves to today's breakthroughs before finally exploring over the implications. Over the years, we have seen and read stories of people that survived the unlikely in cold conditions and left those in the medical community in complete shock. Stories like Yukoshi have demonstrated hibernation, giving a rise to new remedies and procedures, enabling scientists to fight for our lives and lead us to the next breakthrough of the century.
All right, Casey, thank you so much, and you can be excused. Good luck.
Good luck.
All right, I believe our next speaker is Phoebe. So, whenever you're ready, Phoebe.
My brother was normal. Well, as normal as a 4-year-old brother can be. One day, he ate a chocolate-covered cashew, and seconds later, went into anaphylactic shock. Suddenly, our lives became very different as he was allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, milk, soy, and corn. Now, my family and I live with the constant anxiety of trying to avoid these foods to keep him safe. You can't always avoid what you're allergic to, but NBC Washington, July 23rd, 2019, affirms how new incremental exposure treatments will help the 32 million Americans with food allergies. Oral immunotherapy, or OIT, Time Magazine, April 25th, 2019, illustrates are being developed to eliminate the invisible disability known as food allergies. BBC News, July 26, 2019, reports how 13-year-old Karanbir Shima couldn't avoid when his classmates jokingly flicked a piece of cheese at him, causing an allergic reaction that resulted in his death. Today, we'll look at how oral immunotherapies are developing and how they can protect us from the food allergy epidemic. First, we'll unwrap the rocky road of the food allergy epidemic. Second, we'll pick up the Reese's Pieces of Big Pharma's mess. And finally, we'll jump for almond joy with an innovative OIT called the Tolerance Induction Program that will lead to a future free of food allergies. Saving lives performing lung transplants, Dr. Inderpal Randhawa was shocked to discover that patients next door were dying from food allergies. Determined to create a treatment, he began to investigate the food allergy epidemic's 3 main problems. First, Food Allergy Research and Education, May 22nd, 2019, warns that food allergy prevalence has increased by 50% in the last decade alone. Sarah Boudreau Romano, a mother and physician, had no prior history of food allergies. But moments after a bite of ice cream, she felt her blood pressure drop. The Chicago Tribune, August 30th, 2019, explains, ironically, she was lucky enough to have children with allergies, so she was able to administer not 1, not 2, but 3 of her kids' EpiPens before help arrived. We all like to think that this won't happen to me, but adult onset allergies could happen to anyone at any time. Second, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, January 10, 2019, details that within seconds of exposure, an anaphylactic reaction, or the immune system's threat response to a food protein, causes tissues throughout the body to swell until airways close and the heart and lungs fail. Anaphylaxis increased by 377% nationwide in the past 10 years, and WebMD, May 10, 2019, cautions that EpiPens, the life-saving auto-injectors used to stop reactions, has suffered a year-long shortage and skyrocketing prices, leaving many unprotected. Third, avoidance is next to impossible because of people's ignorance. According to PBS Nova, April 24, 2019, a restaurant staff survey exposes that almost 20% thought that removing an allergen from a dish, like picking the nuts off a salad, would render it safe. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Even worse, more than 40% believe food allergies weren't real. Celebrating his 18th birthday, Owen Carey was assured by burger joint staff that despite his dairy allergy, his food was perfectly safe. Yet the Washington Post, September 15, 2019, recalls less than an hour later, collapsed and died. Dr. Randhawa surprisingly saw eye to eye with Big Pharma on the potential problems of the conventional avoidance protocols. However, he disagreed with Big Pharma's adoption of a money-making oral immunotherapy called Palforzia. Let's examine Palforzia through 1, why it was introduced, 2, the effectiveness, and 3, its future. First, Dr. Anthony Fauci insists to CBS News February 3rd, 2019, that the principal medical advice to prevent acquiring allergies was to avoid giving kids allergens, like peanuts. But that information was false and has actually led to more allergies. Apparently, avoiding your problems doesn't work. Who knew? In an effort to turn this around, the OIT Palforzia was developed. Designed for peanut allergy sufferers, incremental doses of peanut protein are mixed into food. USA Today, January 31st, 2020, notes Palforzia intends to allow patients to become bite-proof, or to have the ability to eat 2 peanuts without anaphylaxis. CNN, January 31st, 2020, announced the FDA approved Palforzia this year, making it the nation's first approved treatment for food allergies. Second, despite its well-intentioned goal, many question Palforzia's process and effectiveness. NPR, September 23rd, 2019, admits that at an OIT clinic, a 1-pound bag of peanut flour provides for more than 100 patients per year and costs just $6. Palforzia, which is also peanut flour, is marked up to $10,680 per patient per year. Thanks a lot, Big Pharma. Brian Vickery, who no longer works for Palforzia, confesses to The Atlantic, September 13, 2019, for an expensive therapy, we don't even know if it does what it's supposed to do. Palforzia's overly simplistic one-size-fits-all nature is problematic, as Forbes, September 19, 2019, unveils that while taking it, the risk of anaphylaxis triples. Lastly, while Palforzia's future is debatable, it may be a necessary evil. Science Magazine, September 13, 2019, considers that while a product like Palforzia is presumably risky, the FDA-approved treatment will motivate insurance companies to follow and will help open the door to other food allergy treatments beyond just peanut allergies. Dr. Randhawa is neither a pal nor for Palforzia due to the dangers it presents and its limited focus on just peanuts. Yet, Palforzia's FDA approval is the vital legal step needed for the Tolerance Induction Program, or TIP for short, a revolutionary OIT for any food allergy. We'll explore TIP through 1, its goal, 2, its challenges, and 3, a future with true food freedom. UCLA David Geffen School of Medicine, April 15, 2019, endorses Dr. Randhawa, a leading medical specialist with an unprecedented 5 board certifications, who created TIP to help those with life-threatening food allergies to eat anything without fear of reaction. The Southern California Food Allergy Institute, March 23, 2019, outlines how TIP utilizes big data and algorithms that none of us are smart enough to understand to give each patient an individualized food allergy profile. From there, allergens have 3 categories. 1, allergic or anaphylactic reaction. 2, sensitized, a mild reaction such as hives and wheezing. Or 3, tolerant, or no detectable reaction. Unlike Palforzia, which poses dangers by directly treating the allergic category, TIP understands that allergens have shared strains of proteins. For example, the unlikely relationship between mango and tree nuts. And so through incremental exposure to tolerant allergens, such as mango, serious allergens like tree nuts would move down in categories, becoming less and less severe, until eventually, there's no allergy at all. The OIT Professional Network, July 24, 2019, confirms TIP has a 99% success rate in treating patients. I know what you're thinking. Phoebe, this is too good to be true. So what's the catch? Well, TIP has a 2-year-long waitlist with patients flying into Long Beach, California monthly from around the world. And it comes at a cost, roughly $30,000 per patient, currently not covered by insurance. However, Palforzia's approval will lead to TIP being covered, and their goal is to expand their clinics, giving hope to many. The Translational Pulmonary and Immunology Research Center, January 13, 2019, highlights 5-year-old Micah, where the tiniest bit of an allergen was enough to force him to live in and out of the hospital and emergency room, with his lungs functioning at just 40%. But this individualized treatment plan led him and many others to food freedom. So long, Benadryl. In a nutshell, first, we looked at how the food allergy epidemic is going to catch you off guard. Second, we took a bite out of Big Pharma's payday. And finally, we went nuts over the innovative oral immunotherapy, TIP. OITs like Palforzia have their limitations, but it will pave the way for programs like TIP to create a future free of food allergies. On behalf of my brother and many others, I wish I could just tell everyone to take food allergies more seriously. While your support in the meantime would certainly help, we need more. And with the help of TIP, we will put an end to all food allergies.
I believe we lost Joanne in the middle of that, which isn't a big issue. This is being live streamed, so I guess you can just go back and watch it. But what shall we do? Should we wait to see if she reconnects or just continue? I mean,
Judge?
Hi. This is Brianna from the help room. I would definitely say, just give it a second, maybe for them to reconnect especially if they haven't spoken yet. Or is that
this is
judge?
Actually one of the judges.
I'm a judge now.
Wait, did we lose Sue? Who did we lose? I don't know who we lost. I'm sorry.
I think we might have lost.
We lost Sue. We lost Sue. I'm sorry. We lost
okay.
Sue. Yes.
I received a help message from Sue, but now I notice Sue is not here, so I am going to see if there's another way to reach out to Sue in case they're having some issues.
Okay, cool.
Hang tight, everybody.
Cool, thank you.
Well.
Matthew, did you say she disappeared in the middle of the last speech?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, well, we'll make sure she goes back and we'll make sure she knows she didn't get it all. So
yeah.
I won't have to worry about that.
Yeah, thankfully that won't be an issue for this round. It was just delay the ballots a little bit. But yeah, I guess just everyone just sit tight for a minute. Hopefully we can get her back on and then
just remember we're live streaming. So if you want to do something embarrassing, just make sure to turn off your camera.
Yes.
And by the way, Matthew, good catch.
Yeah, I noticed her feed dropped out and then she dropped out entirely, and I was like, okay, well. But yeah, she's on top of it, I suppose. Something. I think if anything, she can probably call in and hear everything, so we can just continue the judging, and then if she wants, she can go back and watch it.
Or I don't know what the rules of the tournament. Maybe they could just count our ballots, but it would be so great to have her back. Wait.
I think she's here.
Okay, that looks like Sue. Sue, I'm going to go ahead and message you in the chat in case you have any issues.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. I had to switch. I don't know what happened. It froze completely in the middle of that last speech. I sent Danny a message to let him know that, and I switched computers just in case it was my laptop. So sorry about that.
No worries. So everything's good to go?
So what should we do? Sorry.
I'm thinking maybe, Sue, if you don't mind, just go back after the round and watch the live stream of the speech you clicked out on.
That sounds perfect.
And that way we can just continue on with our next speaker, which would be Ben, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. Thank you. Is he here? Yes.
Ben, right? Yeah, Ben's here.
Okay, perfect. All right. Sorry about that. So our next speaker will be Ben.
Last July, The Fix introduced former video gaming addict Julian Sheets to readers. Julian recounted his experiences with gaming addiction, explaining, "It's not something you need to be confused about or feel like an outsider for. You have a medical condition." Fortunately for Julian and others like him, receiving the proper diagnosis has become more common. On May 28, 2019, the World Health Organization classified gaming disorder as an official mental disorder. In a society where, according to the League of Professional Esports of October 2018, video game revenues earned $120 billion worldwide, more than twice what film and music earned combined, this classification changes what it means to play games and points to the need for us to better understand this new condition. So today, we will walk through what gaming disorder is, take a side quest to explore some treatments, and finally level up our understanding with some crucial implications about the hobby at the core of this new diagnosis. First, what is gaming disorder? The World Health Organization first defined it in September of 2018 as a pattern of gaming behaviors characterized by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities, to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities, and continuation and escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. Simply, you'd rather play video games than do anything. Though Vice of July 16th, 2019 notes, you are not addicted if you are just keen on playing video games. Despite recognition, agreeing on what gaming disorder really is and whether the definition addresses the addictive potential of video games remains challenging. As NPR of May 28, 2019 explains, there is no reliable scientific consensus addressing if video games or other media can change brain chemistry and create a true physical dependency. Second, how is gaming disorder diagnosed? The American Addiction Center's website, updated June 13th, 2019, explains the numerous symptoms can be hard to identify. They include poor performance at work or school, neglecting friendships, declining personal hygiene, inability to limit time gaming, signs of irritability when forced to stop, signs of physiological withdrawal when not playing, and using video games to escape stressful situations in life. NCBS News of May 28th, 2019 explains, diagnosis typically requires at least 12 months of severe symptoms. Despite diagnostic challenges, Game Quitters Access June 30th, 2019 explains, anywhere from 1 to 10% of gamers might have addictive tendencies. Statista updated August 9th, 2019 explains, 2.4 billion people play video games. This means 24 million people worldwide may have symptoms for this newly recognized disorder. In December of 2018, Scott explained to Vox that he attempted to stop gaming because it was taking him away from his family. Unfortunately, Scott continually relapsed. Before the recognition of gaming disorder, people like Scott had to solve their addiction alone. Now that the medical community recognizes gaming disorder, there are many treatments being utilized and developed. Fortune of July 11th, 2019 explains, treatment for gamers starts with understanding why they play in the first place. In other words, what are the psychological forces behind gaming addiction? GamesIndustry.biz of July 16th, 2019 explains, modification of relevant characteristics is the crucial aim. Enhancing a patient's resilience toward stressful events, understanding emotional responses, and developing alternative reactions. Additionally, inpatient programs are available to support those with more extreme instances of gaming disorder. The Boston Globe of July 30th, 2019 explains, a facility opening in Massachusetts would allow patients to build new relationships with technology and video games. Upon arrival at the facility, patients are required to surrender their devices, and during their 90-day stay, they use yoga, art, and music to better handle their gaming addiction. After spending weeks of learning sustainable habits, patients are gradually given access to their devices. Though treatment of this kind can cost up to $600 a day. Second, future treatments are being tested and discussed constantly to best help those affected. One form mimics the way gambling addicts have been treated. Newsweek of July 16th, 2019 explains, research into the effects of cognitive behavioral therapy have been promising. The treatment includes a 15-week program to reconceptualize a person's relationship to video games and help teach healthier coping mechanisms. However, more extreme forms of treatment are becoming popular in China and are even being considered for use in the US. A follow-up article from Vice of July 16th, 2018 explains, boot camp-like facilities have become popular in China since they first classified gaming as a disorder in 2008. These boot camps are extreme and sometimes violent, even using electric shock therapy, causing the death of at least 7 participants. Similar, less violent boot camps are being considered for use in the US. A program in Utah called Outback has clinicians, therapists, and features outdoor expeditions to promote learning through experience. On September 25th, 2019, Anonymous wrote for Game Quarters forums that gaming disorder had caused them to end their marriage. They explained that no matter what they did, gaming was always their first priority. They never understood this was a real addiction until they lost everything. However, as recognition of gaming disorder continues to grow, it is important to recognize the significant consequences that come from labeling gaming as an addiction. First, there are significant health-related consequences for how video games and the people who play them are treated. Dr. Vladan Starcevic, Associate Professor of Psychiatry at the University of Sydney, explained to Psychiatry Advisor of February 1st, 2019, when something becomes a disorder, it has implications, and the boundaries distinguishing excessive gaming and problematic gaming are not well defined, and these blurry boundaries lead to stigma. This stigma pathologizes gamers and video games. The Journal of Behavioral Addictions of March 2018 explains, hundreds of millions of people spend billions of hours playing video games. A move to pathologize video games could have important ramifications for the potentially stigmatized or overdiagnosed, healthy, highly engaged gamer. Risk of overdiagnosis is important. As BetterHelp of May 9th, 2019 explains, the overpathologization of normal behaviors has led to an increase in drug dependence in those with even minor disorders. Specifically, over the last 50 years, the diagnosis of some anxiety-related conditions has increased by over 1,000% with mixed results. The lack of a specific definition and understanding of gaming disorder could allow for many people to be misdiagnosed or overmedicated. Second, mass shootings are an epidemic in the United States. Each time one of these tragedies occur, video games are blamed for the actions of terrorists. However, new gaming disorder research could allow for more legitimate arguments in how violence in video games affects a small population of players. The Johns Hopkins University Hub of June 21st, 2019 explains, classification of gaming disorder will make it easier for researchers to get funding for gaming-related research, including how violence in video games affects individuals. Additionally, different people are affected in different and unknown ways by video games. This means while violence in video games may not have an effect on the general population, focusing research on individuals with gaming disorder may bring to light additional mental illnesses that would contribute to violence in video games having a negative impact on these players. Downtown News Magazine of July 23rd, 2019 explains, those who are most affected by violence and are most likely to have gaming disorder often start with other mental illnesses and turn to violent video games to cope. While violent video games and mental illness do not make a person violent, the combination of both and the lack of help available may create the perfect storm. Research enabled by the recognition of gaming disorder is the first step to understanding what, if any, connection exists between video games and violence. Kellen Beck wrote for Mashable that World of Warcraft became their world for years. After seeking treatment, Kellen was able to play video games without the worry of losing control. They explained firsthand that video games are a fun hobby and a part of their life, but allowing it to become their life has significant consequences. Whether or not gaming disorder deserves recognition by the World Health Organization is controversial, but now that it is, it's important we understand it. To achieve this, we walked through what gaming disorder is, completed our side quest to explore some treatments, and finally leveled up our understanding with some crucial implications. Taking this journey allows us to understand our habits and how they might affect our own mental health.
All right, thank you very much, Benjamin. Okay, has Brennan returned yet? Not yet. Okay, so Brennan is double entered, so we'll move him back. So the next speaker will be Sam.
I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me from here? Ella Roberta was a funny, busy, healthy child who had a love of sports and music. Just before her 7th birthday, Ella was diagnosed with a rare and deadly form of asthma. She was admitted to the hospital 27 times over a 3-year period, including 3 stays in intensive care due to life-threatening asthma attacks. According to BBC on May 2nd, 2019, after suffering from seizures for 3 years, Ella suffered an asthma attack she wouldn't survive. Ella's mother, Rosamond Kissy Deborah, is certain that her daughter's condition and subsequent death were caused by air pollution. This belief is supported by a recent study published on August 13th, 2019 in the medical journal JAMA, which found that long-term exposure to air pollutants is associated with worsening lung function. Researchers at the Imperial College of London may have created a solution to this dangerous environmental health threat. Futurism of April 29th, 2019 announces the launch of BioSolarLeaf, a first-of-its-kind technology that uses microscopic plants to remove pollutants from the air. Given that a 2018 World Health Organization report found that 91% of today's populations are living in areas that exceed the recommended level of pollution, BioSolarLeaf is a technology that warrants further examination. First, we'll explore the background of BioSolarLeaf. Second, discover how it functions. And finally, elucidate the implications of a technology that GoodNet on May 15th, 2019 says can do the work of 100 trees in the space of only 1. First, we'll explore the background of our poor air quality and those who are responsible for the creation of BioSolarLeaf. With more than half of today's populations living in dangerously polluted areas, we are facing a crisis that will soon become irreversible if we don't start making some changes. National Geographic on February 4th, 2019 shares that air pollution has contributed to nearly 4.2 million premature deaths in 2016. In addition to contributing to premature deaths, air pollution also has an impact on our young students. BBC of June 23, 2019 shares the results of an experiment that measures the effects of air pollution on test scores. The study found that on days with high air pollution, test scores were significantly lower than on days with little to no air pollution present. During a follow-up, researchers found that students who had been exposed to poor air quality for longer periods of time tended to end up in less prestigious universities or did not attend college at all. On May 16, 2019, STRN shared the story of Julian Melcari, a graduate from the Imperial College of London with a master's degree in engineering and founder of the company Arboria. Arboria, according to the company's website, copyright 2019, is focused on improving people's health, positively impacting climate change, preserving our natural environment, and addressing global resource constraint. One technology Melcari is responsible for is the BioSolarLeaf. Melcari recognizes the air pollution problem in today's world, and he wanted to create a solution that would both decrease poor air quality as well as address the growing concern of food shortages in today's world. According to BBC of June 3rd, 2019, BioSolarLeaf is comprised of solar panel-like structures covered in microscopic fauna. These panels can be installed on land, buildings, and other developments to improve the surrounding air quality. It is the hope of Melcari and his team that these panels may also address the growing concern of feeding the projected 10 billion people who will live on this planet by 2050, a population which the World Economic Forum details on May 3rd, 2019, will demand 70% more food than we are currently consuming. With a better understanding of why BioSolarLeaf was created, we can now take a look at how it functions, as well as some of its benefits and drawbacks. First, construction. Climate Challenge on June 21st, 2019 reveals this new agricultural technology works to remove greenhouse gases from the air utilizing photosynthesis. BioSolarLeaf appears to be a simple solar panel, but rather than the blue circuits and wires we've become accustomed to seeing, BioSolarLeaf is a lush green tapestry woven with the power to cleanse our air of pollutants. BioSolarLeaf panels are comprised of microscopic fauna, such as phytoplankton and microalgae, according to Environmental Technology on June 8th, 2019. Now, in case we don't remember our second grade science lessons, Science Daily on June 3rd, 2019 reveals that photosynthesis is the process through which plants absorb carbon dioxide and produce and release oxygen into the atmosphere. CNBC on December 3rd, 2019 shares that these microorganisms are some of the most important organisms in the history of our planet. They're behind the original buildup of oxygen in our atmosphere, and utilizing these plants and biosolar leaf panels allows for these panels to be highly efficient at capturing and sequestering carbon from our atmosphere. Second, there are both benefits and drawbacks to this latest technology. The largest benefit provided by biosolar leaf is its potential to feed our ever-growing population. The previously cited World Economic Forum details that microalgae species are rapidly gaining traction around the world as alternative sources of protein, antioxidants, and other nutrients. The more common microalgae species can already be found in pasta, snack bars, smoothie, ice cream, and even dog food. Futurism of April 29, 2019 shares that apples, which pack an antioxidant punch, are outpaced in nutritional value by microalgae. While the benefits of this technology are numerous, it's not without its drawbacks. The Guardian of June 21st, 2019 reveals that biosolar leaf only exists in a single location in London. With that only one location being currently utilized, it is hard to know the true impact biosolar leaf may have in a city as large and as populated as London. And as there's currently no information available on this cost of this technology, it is possible that smaller or poor municipalities may not benefit from Melkari's latest invention. While there are drawbacks to this technology, they are currently far outweighed by its benefits. With a better understanding of why biosolar leaf was created, as well as some of its benefits and drawbacks, we are ready to elucidate the implications of this literal green technology. The implications exist on an economic and architectural level. First, our economic implication. Pew Research on June 21st, 2019 reveals that the biggest issue currently is the digital divide in America. While it is true that some aspects of the divide have narrowed, the digital lives of lower and higher income Americans still remained marked differently. Given the astronomical price tag that is associated with technology like this, it seems likely that smaller or poor communities may not benefit from Melkari's latest invention. Organization Environment America reveals on June 16, 2019, that hundreds of thousands of Americans have purchased solar panels, but that the vast majority of those panels have been installed on private homes, many of which exist in the suburbs. And given that a CNN report on March 3rd, 2019 reveals that the 30 cities with the worst air pollution are some of the most densely populated on the planet, it seems likely that the phenomena of the digital divide will further harm the health and well-being of individuals who simply cannot afford the latest technological gadget. Second, The Guardian of May 15th, 2019 shares that one of the biggest concerns for both business and homeowners is whether or not their buildings will be able to hold up the extra strain that panels may put on them. The beauty of biosolar leaf, according to Environmental Technology of February 8th, 2019, is because there is no limit to how small or how big these panels can be, they can be put anywhere. This reality means that any area occupied by biosolar leaf can have a huge impact on the air we breathe every single day. Today, we've explored the background of biosolar leaf, discovered how it functioned, and elucidated the implications of a technology that hopes to tackle the ever-prevalent issue of air pollution in today's world. In May of last year, a second inquest was ordered to investigate the cause of death of 9-year-old Ella Roberta. If it is found that air pollution killed her, her death certificate will be the first to list air pollution as a cause of death. While Ella's mother says this will come as a sign of relief, hopefully she and other mothers will be able to breathe in a deep, clean sigh of relief.
All right, thank you so much, Samantha. Okay, so that brings us to Eman Iman? How do you say your name?
Iman.
Iman. Okay, so our next speaker will be Iman.
All right. Let me just how I'm sitting. All right, just to make sure, can everyone see and hear me okay? Awesome. Over the last year, the human costs of climate change have become painfully real. From historically large hurricanes, city-destroying wildfires, and the evacuation of our coastal communities in the wake of rising sea levels, the urgency to take action seems to increase with each passing day. We have long heard that a rise in our global temperature by just 2 degrees Celsius would have devastating consequences. This year, research shows that some places have already reached this tipping point. An August 2019 article from the Washington Post explains more than a century of national oceanic and atmospheric temperature data across the lower 48 states has found that some places are nearing or have already crossed that 2-degree mark. This is compounded by the dire warning issued just last October by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that failure to reduce emissions to near zero by the year 2030 would most certainly result in consequences that could devastate all life on Earth. It has become increasingly clear that we must not only reduce those emissions, but find some way to pay back that carbon debt that we have accumulated since the dawn of our Industrial Revolution. Thus, I'm here to discuss a promising new technology called direct air capture, or DAC. It has the potential to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. So today, we'll be discussing DAC tech as described by the Rhodium Group in 2019 as essential. We'll be looking at what it is, how it works, and some of its major implications. First, let's take a look at what it is. In early 2015, Carbon Engineering, a clean energy company based out in British Columbia, saw a new, innovative technology. Their system, direct air capture, was hoped to serve as a way to directly remove carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. Over a 3-year pilot program, they were able to build, bring online, and construct a large-scale test on this design. BBC reports in 2019 that the results are in and they show highly promising success. The peer-reviewed journal Joule published an article of preliminary findings in June of 2018 where they explain that Carbon Engineering's first plant clearly demonstrated a feasibility with a large-scale DAC system. The article also explains that previous attempts at similar DAC systems failed to produce the same adequate results. Specifically, past attempts required a greater expenditure of carbon than was removed at the end. But what's unique about Carbon Engineering's process is that not only are they able to sequester carbon without those emissions, it's cost effective. David Roberts writes for Vox in June of 2018 that this is the clearest look at how DAC might actually work, not just as a technology, but as a business. In addition to being able to sequester CO2, the DAC model is also unique in that it is able to turn that captured carbon into a variety of other useful products. So during its test run, the pilot plant was able to create carbon-neutral plastics, synthetic gasoline, and they even had enough CO2 left over to make some carbonated drinks. It's refreshing, right? In the conclusion of its pilot run, Carbon Engineering was able to partner up with Greyrock, a California-based company, where they were able to scale up this technology for commercial use. Vox reports in September 2019 that preliminary construction has already begun in the United States and Canada to demonstrate its economic viability. The article goes on to argue that if successful, DAC tech can become a $1 trillion market by the year 2030. Now that we've seen how promising DAC is, let's head on over and talk about how it works. The aspirations behind DAC are pretty grand, but the execution is actually pretty simple. Decarbonize the global economy by extracting CO2 straight from the air through the use of some giant fan and a chemical filter. Then we use that extracted material to fuel the world's needs for energy and products. As explained by a January 2019 white page article on Carbon Engineering's website, their system integrates two main processes. The first process absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and delivers and makes a stable liquid solution that's then easier to transport. The second process then regenerates that captured liquid and then delivers pure CO2 as its end product. Akshat Rathi writes for Quartz in July of 2019 that the pure carbon solution is then transported to a container where it's brought into contact with calcium oxide to react with the CO2 to make calcium carbonate. It then goes through a third container where the calcium carbonate is then heated to 100 degrees Celsius to again create calcium oxide. And while the plant is in operation, those two processes work in tandem, continuously producing sequestered CO2 as its output and only requiring energy, water, and just a small amount of chemicals as its input. In addition to being able to sequester CO2, the DAC model can then, and it could make the CO2 and reuse it to make a bunch of other synthetic fuels and products. Alternatively, it can be converted back to its raw elemental carbonated form, as you can see here, or it can just be injected underground for long-term removal or to even revitalize our depleted gas and oil fields. But now that we've seen how DAC can transform both our environment and our economy, let's take a look at some of the most important implications we have to consider. The wide-scale implementation of DAC presents some amazing opportunities, but at the same time, some difficult choices. Let's take a look at those opportunities. A February 2019 article from the peer-reviewed journal Mitigation and Adaptation Strategies for Global Change conducted an analysis on Carbon Engineering's plans to implement DAC commercially. Their findings showed that the DAC model seemed to be the most feasible mitigation strategy to achieve the targets set out in the Paris Climate Accords. That means that pursuing this technology is a way for the United States to demonstrate its global commitment to the international community. A June 2018 peer-reviewed article from the Journal of Sustainable Energy and Fuels argues that DAC is actually the missing link needed to finally close that carbon cycle, as it would allow us to effectively reduce our atmospheric carbon levels while simultaneously producing fuels that can be used in vehicles without any need for modification from the end user. However, this also leads us to some difficult choices. At its core, DAC gives us the technology to reduce the amount of carbon in our atmosphere. And for the first time since our ancestors started cracking open the earth and releasing those fossil fuels into the air, this technology now exists to put these materials back where they belong, where they can be safely stored. The problem, though, lies in economic motivation. What excites investors and oil companies alike is their ability to make new fuels and new plastics without any need for costly extraction. It's important to note that the DAC model will at least be carbon neutral with its products. However, instead of reducing the amount of carbon, it just reuses it. And the plastic would still contribute to overflowing landfills, and the fuel would still overcrowd our roads with cars. But companies are still capitalizing on this. In a recent August 2019 article from the Houston Chronicle, they explain that what ExxonMobil and Chevron have just invested millions of dollars into this technology. On the one hand, the economic viability of DAC means that I could get a buy-in from some pretty powerful players. On the other hand, valuing economic stability over environmental sustainability is the difference between fixing a problem and just prolonging the onset of that same problem. That being said, the previously cited Rhodium Group source from 2019 explains that the actual application of DAC matters really little in this early stage of development as long as we can make our 2030 deployment goals, which means any progress is still progress, and DAC is our way forward. So today, We looked at how DAC air capture is a promising new technology that has the power to transform our whole entire world for the better. We looked at what it is, how it works, and some of its complex implications to our society. Our generation is saddled in a carbon debt, a debt that has been accumulated by our parents and grandparents and those that came way before them. And it's still realistic to be hopeful about our ability to address climate change. And direct air capture gives us a choice. We can either use this technology now or just pass on this debt to our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Yvonne. Okay. Check this.
I'm sorry. This is my last speech of the day. So I was just like emotional.
No, I think that's, I'm so glad that you got a chance to have this experience, and I'm sorry it has to be so long distance though.
It's okay.
You're making me tear up. Thank you for sharing it with us. All right, I think we're still waiting on Brennan, so let's go ahead and go to Isabella, please, our next speaker.
In preparation for her dinner, a woman purchased mushrooms from an unknown vendor. She later grilled those mushrooms and fed them to her family. About 9 hours later, they began experiencing nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Her 18-month-old daughter eventually needed a liver transplant and suffered permanent brain damage. Mushrooms are unpredictable. You can eat them, get high off them, but some can kill you. However, new research also indicates that they can be used to treat a previously incurable disorder. Dr. Ronald R. Griffiths highlights to Forbes on September 12, 2019, that this new psilocybin therapy could offer an entirely new paradigm for treating major depressive disorder, also known as MDD. One woman with chronic depression articulates her struggles to HuffPost on April 3, 2019, saying, "My medications stop working. My depression creeps back in. Once I finally ask for help, my doctors and I begin the guessing game of finding a new medication. And still, I wake up each morning afraid of my own brain chemistry." Today, we'll lift up those suffering from MDD and get them high, because psilocybin, yes, shrooms, could be the cure to major depressive disorder. First, we'll trip over the problem of MDD. Second, we'll reach enlightenment during the psilocybin treatment process. And finally, we'll explore a future where we can all be like Mario and benefit from shrooms. To new mother Julie Ugelhot, depression was a foreign concept, but that was until she experienced it after the birth of her first daughter. Diagnosed with postpartum depression, she battled isolation and suicidal thoughts. Like Julie, countless suffer from depression and its three main problems: suicide, ineffective medications, and how these popular treatments can lead to even more suicides, making this a dangerous cycle. The World Health Organization on January 30th, 2020 explained that depression affects more than 264 million people. And for people aged 15 to 29 years old, suicide is the second leading cause of death. The National Institute of Mental Health on May 31st, 2019 reports how a 63-year-old entrepreneur seemingly had it all. But due to the economic crisis, he grew depressed. Suicidal ideation was the only relief he had from the pain that he was experiencing. After writing letters to his children, and moments before using his gun to kill himself, he made a phone call to a friend. That friend was able to get him to a psychiatric hospital where he was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. He was saved, but many in this scenario are not as fortunate. Scientists have yet to understand the full complexity of major depressive disorder. Johns Hopkins Medicine on February 17, 2020 details how people are forced to try SSRIs, SSNRIs, TCAs, MAOIs, bupropion, and esketamine, all which have been developed to help treat depression but continue to fail many. While many seek treatments, they're often ineffective and possibly dangerous. For over a decade, the FDA has included a black box warning on common antidepressants. Newsweek on March 23rd confesses that antidepressants don't work for up to 30% of people with depression. And along with this, exposure to SSRIs comes along with its own set of risks as well. Johns Hopkins Medicine on March 23rd, 2019 reveals that there is an increase in suicidal ideation amongst young people. Harvard Medical School on March 19th, 2019 declares the lifetime suicide rate of people with major depression is 15% despite all efforts to treat it. Julie's husband started microdosing psilocybin mushrooms to help with her growing depression and suicidal ideation. Yet, researchers warn heavily against self-medicating, instead advocating for their process to use psilocybin therapy to help treat major depressive disorder, which we'll explore through the background, the trial, and the results. Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris, the head for the Center of Psychedelic Research, hypothesized that psilocybin would help those with MDD. In the United States, psilocybin became classified as a Schedule I drug in 1970. And The Atlantic on May 16, 2019, notes that making this a Schedule I drug was based on the assumption that there were no medical benefits. However, Science Times on November 27, 2019, reveals that psilocybin affects the amygdala, reducing anxiety and fear, allowing for the symptoms of MDD to diminish. The London Imperial College conducted a psilocybin therapy trial, and The Independent on June 8, 2019 outlines the process. 60 participants in the double-blind study were given either a placebo, an SSRI, or a dose of psilocybin, accompanied by a psychedelic experience to help guide through past traumas. Yet, patients describe themselves as being reset, reborn, and rebooted after having used psilocybin. More than half of the group was in remission 3 weeks after the trial, and the Telegraph on March 19, 2019 concludes that while some relapsed after 3 or 6 months, some were still depression-free several years later. The Guardian on June 10, 2019 echoes Michael, a man who struggled with chronic depression. After 50 minutes of anxiously waiting for the drug to kick in, Michael embarked on a 5-hour journey into his own mind, where he relived a range of childhood memories and confronted past traumas. He illustrates, "I became a different person. I couldn't wait to get into the world and see people. I was confident." While Julie's microdosing helped alleviate her depression, the practice of microdosing mushrooms is not without its risks, similar to both the dangers and benefits accompanying the future of psilocybin therapy, which we'll explore through mental health risks, cost, and potential advantages. Though there have been promising results, there are mental health risks. Dr. Lawrence Weinstein, the Chief Medical Officer for American Addiction Centers, cautions to Insider on January 24, 2019, that psychological distress is the most common adverse effect reported after use of psilocybin. He continues saying that this can range from a bad trip to disturbing hallucinations that can last for days. The New York Times on May 16, 2019 revealed that psychedelic researchers screened volunteers carefully, excluding those with serious mental risks like schizophrenia, because in rare instances, magic mushrooms can cause a psychotic break. And while they can cause a psychotic break, they can break the bank as well. The Economist on June 8, 2019 notes that because so little psilocybin is produced, getting a hold of it is both tricky and expensive. Forbes on January 31, 2019 unveils that patients receive 2 psilocybin doses in the span of 2 weeks, meaning treatment can cost upwards of $4,000. A staggering number considering this is just something that grows out of the ground. Although psilocybin may face obstacles, it has shown potential in other areas, such as treating people with progressive diseases and disorders. Cancer patients suffering from anxiety and depression received a dose of psilocybin. And NBC News on January 28, 2020 reveals that 5 years later, nearly 80% of patients were still experiencing reduced symptoms. Bloomberg News on December 12, 2019 highlights that scientists are now seeking mushrooms for other ailments, including Alzheimer's, anorexia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and migraines. If mushrooms are legalized, the possibilities are out of this world. Today, we fell down into the rabbit hole of the problems of MDD. Second, we opened the secret door of the psilocybin process. And lastly, we wandered into Wonderland as we saw the future of magic mushrooms. Psilocybin could be the help we need to treat those tormented by debilitating MDD. So remember, silly rabbit, tricks are for kids, but trips could be helpful for those tormented by major depressive disorder.
All right. Thank you so much, Isabella. And I think we have, Brennan got back yet?
Yes, hi.
Hi, good. All right. Well, so our next and I believe final speaker for the round will be Brennan.
Are you all ready? Judges all ready? Okay. When I turned 13 years old, I was told I never need my rescue inhaler again. For years, I had it tied to the very fiber of my being, as I had no idea when an asthma attack would occur or how severe its symptoms would be. And according to the CDC in June of 2019, 25 million Americans are in the same position as I was, wondering when their next asthma attack will be and whether their rescue inhaler will be there for them when it occurs. However, due to recent advances from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, doctors and patients could find an uncommon ally: deep learning algorithms, which is when a patient's data is taken and then uploaded to a computer, then compared to tens of thousands of other patients, and can correctly determine the likelihood of a patient developing an illness and within what time frame, potentially leaving eras of waiting and hoping behind in favor of predictive learning. So today, we'll begin with a brief background of how these algorithms work, then to how they can be used today at predicting the spread of COVID-19, and finally, their positive and negative implications. First, to background. As previously mentioned, according to the CDC in June of 2019, 25 million Americans have asthma. That's 1 in 13. And 11.4 million reported a serious asthma attack within the last 12 months. However, according to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in May of 2018, the main issue is with these algorithms in the past is that they tell patients information that they already knew. For example, instead of telling patients when they would have an asthma attack, these algorithms only told them the likelihood of one occurring within 6 to 12 months, leaving many patients in the dark. However, due to recent advances from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology on breast cancer research, we can apply this technology to asthma detection as well. And here's how it works. A patient goes into a doctor's office with asthma. They then take a test, which measures a volume of air they can push out of their lungs at a specific period of time. Then this data is uploaded to a computer and compared to tens of thousands of other patients. And MIT says in their May 7th, 2019 study that this algorithm can correctly determine the likelihood of a patient developing an asthma attack within the next 7 days, 73% of the time correctly, meaning that MIT theorizes this could save hundreds of lives every single year of those who are most vulnerable to the disease if these algorithms were used across the United States. Now that we've discussed how these algorithms work, we'll now discuss their current applications with an interview with Bill Gates by Vox on May 27th, 2015, where he theorized that within the next 30 years, the likelihood of a pandemic more infectious than Ebola spreading across the globe at higher than 50%. And considering the fact that we're all talking to each other through our computers, Bill Gates was right. So the question became for him how to predict where patient zero would be and how to stop them from infecting others. So by using a precursor to the MIT algorithm I just discussed, he partnered with the Centers for Disease Modeling in 2016 to model the 1918 Spanish flu And much like Ebola did in the early 2010s, Bill Gates theorized the next pandemic would start in West Africa first, then spread largely locally, and then infect every major population center by day 100, killing over 770,000 people in the process. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation wasn't far off from predicting the spread of COVID-19 either. He actually predicted the Hubei province of China, where the city of Wuhan is currently residing in, as the second most likely place for disease to appear, as SARS appeared there in the early 2000s. However, when he presented this information to the general public, it fell on deaf ears. And we saw, according to the New York Times in January of this year, that the Trump administration cut the pandemic response team from the National Security Council, leaving many countries in the Western and developing world unprepared for the spread of a pandemic, as they usually turn to us and the Centers for Disease Control. Now that we've discussed how these algorithms are currently being used, we'll now move to their positive and negative implications. First, to the positives, with the MIT study on May 7th, 2019, where they quoted Doctor of Professor and Health at Stanford University, Alison Kurian, where she argues that these algorithms can be used in a wide net across the United States for a variety of diseases. Because according to the University of Rome on August 30th, 2018, these algorithms are trained on specific sets of fMRI, MRI, or CAT scans, which means that we can target these algorithms to specific diseases, such as lung and breast cancer, along with asthma, allowing us to predict, as Alison Kurian says, patient risk, which she theorized would help us estimate the likelihood of a patient developing a chronic illness and within what time frame, allowing them to know when to go to a doctor to get a scan for these illnesses, reducing patient mortality. However, there are two main downsides to this technology as well. The first is computing power. That Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and MIT study that I just cited did not have the computing power necessary to update their models in real time. However, the solution to this could be found through quantum computers. And for those of you who don't know, a quantum computer is an informative topic from the early 2000s. It's also just a faster supercomputer. For example, Google AI, which was published on October 28th, 2019, completed a task in 200 seconds that would have taken the world's fastest supercomputer over 10,000 years to complete. This is huge. This allows the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and MIT to update their models in real time to changing world conditions. And with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they can update their models to war, civil war, and famine, which make disease more likely to appear. And then they can alert the UN and Doctors Without Borders, allowing us to predict where disease will appear next and deploy medical health professionals in those regions. The second is patient privacy. In an era of smart speakers and smart devices, according to MIT in May of 2020, or in May of 2019, that many Americans are deeply concerned about giving up their information as they think it's going to be bought and sold to the highest bidder, such as a life or health insurance company, potentially changing their rates and what they pay. However, MIT theorizes this could be fixed by informing patients of their rights under the Health and Information Patient Privacy Act, or HIPAA, which explicitly bans health insurance companies from selling patients' data to life insurance companies, which would hopefully put many patients at ease, as they can now understand that they can take these beta tests and use these algorithms without fear that their data is going to be sold and potentially affect their healthcare down the line. So today, we've discussed deep learning algorithms inside the medical field. We discussed first how they work, then their current applications, and finally their positive and negative implications. And as someone with asthma, I'm at exceptionally high risk for COVID-19. And these algorithms can help me predict where a pandemic will start and where I'll be at the most risk, along with the likelihood of me developing an asthma attack within the next 7 days. Meaning that a remote villager in China and a college student in America could find more in common than they might expect through deep learning algorithms. as these algorithms allow us to predict where the next pandemic will be and when the next asthma attack will happen, potentially leaving our world happier, healthier, and safer for years to come.
All right, thank you so much, Brennan, and congratulations again to everyone for making this final round of informative speaking. And I appreciate being able to see you all speak, and I hope to see you in the future, whether it's as a competitor or a judge somewhere.
Thank you for being so persevering there for us. So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Yeah, congratulations, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, y'all.